Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Miscast, episode 3. I am Luke Willoughby, and I am joined by Stuart. Well, I'm joining you, Stuart, because we're on your YouTube channel at the moment. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing well. Now, for people who wondering who's Luke, well, he's the guy in the opposite corner who, for some reason, doesn't have a webcam. So here we are.
Can't
So
afford one.
I'm alive. Luke's permanently in the internet void over here on the right, but he is here, and hopefully, well, yep.
I could just be a brain in a jar. No one knows.
Nice.
Um, right, to business, Stuart. We are running a tournament at the moment, aren't we? We are running the Release the Beast Teams tournament, which, for those of you that don't know, is a six-player teams tournament on TTS. Um, and we're halfway through the rounds, aren't we, Stuart? We're on round 4 now, so we're gonna basically do a roundup of the first 3 rounds of the tournament, see how the teams are doing, and talk about the lists and the games and what's going on.
Yeah.
Stuart, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. So, well, we've had interesting tournaments so far, and I feel like a team that's maybe snuck through a little unnoticed. Obviously a great team nonetheless, but I think maybe we didn't expect them to be at exactly this point. In round three, I for some reason thought that they'd lost a round. I don't know why, but anyway, we have Team Australia in first place. They scored big in the previous round, and they managed to jump up to first place here. And they're playing Motorhomes in the 1 versus 2 match right now. Um, Now they've got, I would say, some of the strongest lists in the tournament. Luke, I think. I remember when we said that
Absolutely.
in list review. Now this show won't be like a list review like we did earlier. If you want to see that, go look earlier in the channel. We did another big list review show for this tournament. Um, but it's important to talk about. We can just give like a brief picture of the strengths of the lists. Now, I would say the first one they've got here, uh, with Nagash is um,
Slightly
maybe
more
the
flavorful.
yeah, it's slightly, I guess
Yeah.
flavorful is the word we would use. I think Chris would be on board with me. Like this is a strong list, but if we just look through the rest of the list, we got like strong living cities list. We've got
Not as cookie cutter, is it?
yeah, we got strong Nurgle list with the Blight Lords, which you see often these days. We've got I mean this list is gross, but Gardas with the dragons and the Vanguard Raptors. Probably one of the strongest lists in the game right now, if not the strongest list. Definitely up there. And we also, it's important to note, we're playing before the new battle scroll in this tournament. So the way it works in TTS is this is a 6 week long tournament, and because the battle scroll was released partway through the tournament, we still play on the old patch, if you will. So those changes to Stormdrake Guard and some other units are not in place in this tournament. So yeah, this list right here is still incredibly strong. Um, and
The
then to
game, well, at the point, yeah.
round it out, we've got KO. I think an incredibly strong pick. In the team environment, having that one bang shooting list, um, in the pairings is really strong. It can really just bully some. If your opponent has like a corn list or something that really hates shooting, you can kind of bully them with this list in your arsenal. So I think it's very strong. And yeah, it wouldn't be a strong team without Seraphon. So there's Seraphon. I would
Again,
say maybe
slightly,
I
it's
think
not,
Fabian. Yeah, I
yeah.
think he would agree with me that this list is not the strongest version maybe of Seraphon, but it's still very good, isn't it?
This is the thing about Seraphon. It doesn't need to be the strongest version of the Seraphon list to absolutely bully other lists and poop all over them because it's got the best allegiance abilities in the game. Everything's undercosted. This Thunder Lizard sub-factions are just nuts with the -1 damage, and in a team format, you can kind of engineer it to go into something that's going to really suffer from that. Like anything with elite high damage output is going to find its output just kind of halved. Like put this into like Graveguard or something, and the Graveguard suddenly do 1 damage, and you're like, oh, doesn't feel very good.
Mm.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's this the strong lists, and who have they played so far, Stuart, in Australia?
Okay, so we're gonna have to look through this very advanced spreadsheet technology. so they played the losers round 2, which have lost a few games, but that's actually they got some really strong lists in that team, and I think they've maybe been a bit unlucky to not be higher up in the standings. And then they played what was it, round 2? It was Age of Baguette, so that's the French team, another very strong team. And then in round 3 they played Some Big Apples, which is an American team. So, and they got the big cap in round 3. So I think what happened to them is they had quite a close round 1. You can see the score was 66-54. So it was I think they were. It's a lot of stress in round 1. I think so. You never want to lose the round 1 if you bring in a really strong list and kind of hoping to gun for a win in the tournament. But they've recovered really well, and yeah, obviously that cap in round 3 is great, and that's what's put them at the top of the standings. Now I would say, Luke, they've got something in their list composition which the second place team has as well, which we'll go into now. Which is taking advantage of one aspect of the format. So for those who maybe aren't in the tournament and don't know, the way that the pairings work in this tournament is, you have basically you have control over what army goes on which map. The matchups you can't always exactly pick, but like, let's say I'm the defending team and I put down my maybe the round 1 is the Vice or something. Map 1 is the Vice. I put my KO down on there. They're guaranteed to play on map 1. So being able to control the map that you play on is a huge advantage for some armies. Which, if we get into the second lot of lists from Accessible Motorhomes, which my team lost to last round, these guys have an interesting mix of lists, don't they, Luke? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that you can do to highlight Stuart's point that you just made about how the team composition, such as this, can really take advantage of being able to dominate something on a map. Say that the round in question is something like the Vice, which heavily favors shooting armies because you need to control objectives that are really far at the back of the board, and it's long ways deployment, so something like that. The Accessible Motorhomes have 2 of these long-range shooting lists in their setup, with the Seraphon with the 2 Bastillodons and the Slan, and then the Lumineth with the Foxes and the Sentinels. So even when they attacking or defending, they can kind of bully the opponent onto giving them a favourable matchup on that battle plan.
Yeah.
And I found that being the captain of my team and doing matchup process, having kind of 2 lists that do something similar or have a similar sort of play style. So those 2 lists, the shooting list, the long range list, and then you go down, you've got lists like Old Mate Cobbs and then Geordie Isle with the Corn, which are more of like these flood the board with bodies to list and win on objectives, and obviously Nikita's trying to do the same thing with his list. Some types of armies don't like playing against that, so if you've got your opponent's defending with a list that's got elite damage and doesn't really have the output to get through all those bodies, you can team up on them with Nikita's list and the Corn list, and then suddenly, no matter what they pick, they're going to get an unfavourable matchup. So I think the 3 types of lists that we're seeing a lot of are the shooting long range lists. You got the body lists, or the crap lists, as we would like to call them, and then the other type of list is kind of, I think they're called the bully lists, where you've got some big monsters that can do a lot of damage. So in this case, it's little tanks, Flesh Eater Courts with the 2 Terrorgeists, or it's something like Iron Jaws with the Maw Crushers, or sometimes Gargants or something. And having a mixture of those types of lists means that you can usually get yourself 2, 3, or maybe even 4 matchups out of the 6 that are heavily favoured. I think with a team composition like this, and I think these guys have done that well because you said you played them just recently, Stuart, and your team had plenty of decent lists in it, but some of them are hard to get to on certain maps.
Yeah,
Some of them
I think
hard
something that I've
matchups.
learned from playing against these guys in this tournament is just the power of like casino lists. I'm not saying that as like a slight to them, but just in the pairings process, it's like, we had so many discussions where it's like, oh, X player, do you want to play against Corn? And it's like, nah, I don't want to play against Corn. It's like, in all likelihood, you're going to win that matchup. But because there's that chance that the Khorne player just rolls really well on like the Boom Thirster and blows up your whole army, you're just a little bit like apprehensive to play that matchup. Even though you should win it most of the time. It's the same versus Flesh Eater Courts. Like, it's just that prospect of the Terrorgeist rolling the 6s, which doesn't bully you in the pairings, but if you've got a really strong list that maybe has some flexibility issues, so I know in our pairings, like, when we had Philip on the Living Cities, like, that's a very bare bones list because he's basically got 4 Fulminators, 4 Dragons, and a Phoenix, and that's his whole army. So, with an army like his, thinking about playing against a casino army, it could go really wrong. So we have to kind of play the pairings around dodging that matchup. Even though he should win it most of the time, it's just because of that threat of the player rolling really well that kind of makes these Khorne lists or these Flesh Eater Courts lists, while they're not like super strong on paper, yeah, in the team's pairing process, they have some extra power, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like that allows you to sort of, because all you're trying to do is get 4 wins or 3 wins at slightly higher points value than your opponent to get the win. So it's not playing like singles where you need to win every single game to have a chance of winning the tournament. You're trying to just simply get past the post, get more points than the team that you've matched up in the round. So say you've got 3 lists that 3 matchups that you're really comfortable with because you've set them up to be on the KO have got the battle plan that they want, or the Luminearth have got the matchup that they want, and then a list like Little Tanks with the Feck you put into their biggest list. So say it was Philip's Living Cities or maybe the Seraphon list. That list, if it double turns you and it rolls loads of 6s, it can do the upset. It can win. It will take off those dragons and those fulminators, and then suddenly pull a win out of the bag, and then you've won the whole matchup. You've won the whole team tournament, and I think that's kind of how a lot of the accessible motorhomes guys have gone, getting a couple of upset wins and then tipping it into a overall win to them. So they're on 3-0 as well. Definitely ones to watch with some big players in them and some good lists.
Yep.
Some outsider lists though. I think the next team, Team Dim, which were my team, the opponents, have got more of cookie cutter's the wrong word, but just the out and out strong lists with 1 or 2 outliers, but a lot of just strong lists.
Yeah. Now, my team is playing this team this round, so we've obviously had some decent contact with them. This first list is what I'm playing this round, and Radoviskov always plays. He plays a lot of funky lists, and this is definitely one of them. When we were doing a list review, we did notice the grand strategy of Vendetta, which I believe he's got a couple of times, which is amazing.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he has.
Which is amazing. But this is definitely not like a super cookie cutter list. Like, he's got 2 storms and a bunch of thralls. He doesn't have any sharks.
This was the exception.
Yeah. So this is definitely the exception to the rule. But other than that, we've got I think a pretty standard Soulblight Gravelords list. It's got a few more like buff heroes than you might see in a list like Nikita's, which is about just flooding the board. But you've got a lot of stuff still, and a lot of damage potential here. Manfred just but one of the most craziest war scrolls in the game. Yeah. It's just that's such a good war scroll. You got Tensure, which I've noticed has just been absolutely just ruining people's lives with this this Lumineth list. He's been doing so well with this. Yeah,
smashing everyone with this list. I mean, we're not going to beat around the bush. This list is horrible to play against. It leans into MPE. It leans into janky ways to win. I think he's been taking advantage of the terrain that we've been having with the stupid terrain piece blocking up lanes and just stopping combat piles in with the Severith, and then just no matter where they are on the board, those sentinels are going to pick off your key piece. So it's not very nice, but he's been using it to win.
It's a really hard list to play. Like, actually, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Like the techless version is much easier to play than this one. This one you got so many things to think about, and because you don't have like just the auto 5-up ward. Like, he does have the 5-up ward in here, but it's not guaranteed to go off, and so because of that, mistakes get punished a bit more with this list. So you gotta play it well. I know there's quite a few people in the UK playing more wardens like this. That does seem to be the direction that they're going. Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise I think you can really lose out to those other body lists like the Soul, like Grave Lords or something like that. You can stop them from hitting you with all your foxes and stuff, but they're still going to win all the objective points. Whereas you've got a decent number of wardens, you can start challenging the points slightly more. I think is kind of the direction that these Luminists have been going.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Chenshiro has been doing well with that. And
And then
absolutely disgusting this next. This one's horrible.
well,
Really
he's got
strong.
Gotrek in there, which we can argue whether that's good or not. But if Gotrek is good,
I
he's the
think it
best in
works
Seraphon.
well. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He
Yeah.
works well in this list in particular.
Yeah, I agree because it's all about defending the castle. You still got the Bastillodon in there.
Which I think is the most. Oh, I think if I could, yeah, the Bastillodon and Thunder Lizards just
It's funny
gives me
because
nightmares.
it's because Smorgan, who's on my team, keeps trying to tell me that the Bastillodon is bad, but I'm just kind of like, okay, it might not be able to kill my entire army, but it is 250 points. Like, let's not forget that it's 250 points. Like, just
Yeah, here's the thing,
yeah,
Stuart. It might not be able to kill my entire army, but my entire army can't kill it. And that's the problem when it is when
yeah,
it's
I
250
know.
points. I've had this thing where because it's usually at the back of the board, and it's usually you trying to take it on later in the game when you're struggling on battle tactics or whatever, and you might try, oh, do I go for a cheeky bring it down on the Bastillodon? It's got 6 wounds left, and then you charge into it with your unit, and oh yeah, we're fighting in Gur, so I'm going to be top bracket, and now Ethereal 1-up save,
Yeah,
+2 to
yeah,
save because
yeah,
of the priest buff or whatever, and then you do two damage to it, and it does 4 damage to you back with his 4 attacks, and you think, Jesus, this thing's horrible. And then in the next turn it shoots you off. And it's just, yeah, I think the Bastillodon plays the game really, really well with the battle tactics. I think it's one of the best battle tactic machines you've got. It really helps you get the harder to get battle tactics like broken ranks and bring it down a slot play the Warlord with its range output. And it also denies battle tactics. It's a really good thing for Monstrous Takeover. I think for 250 points, it probably equates to the most amount of victory points per points that you spend out of anything I can think of, I reckon.
Well, I
Does that
think
make sense?
yeah, I agree, but I do think this list does have some holes in it. I think with Seraphon in general, if you can take down all the bodies, the skinks, and just survive for long enough, you can just generally win the game. I think that's kind of their weakness.
Said and done though.
It's just the Thunder Lizards don't have many bodies, so if you can somehow get through the skinks, you tend to be okay. The issue that you come up against a normal Thunder Lizards list, so maybe one that doesn't have Gotrek, is the Skink Chief. That guy is horrific. Like, we'll get into it. Actually, yeah, we'll get into it later when we look at my team's list because we've got a Skink Chief. That guy just kills all your bodies. He just kills all your shit. He can one hit a Gargant easy on his own. He does like 50 damage to a Gargant. It's hilarious. But yeah, that War Scroll's crazy. And yeah, there's so many options in
This
Seraphon.
book is crazy.
Yeah.
This book is crazy. Let's
All
move
right.
on. It makes me
Yep.
about it. Nurgle list, Stuart, and this is the Gardener's list, the Beast of Nurgle with Horticulus. I did watch your most recent show,
Yep.
and it was really good. So you should check it out if you haven't already. And I agreed with you that this list is really strong, but it's not maybe the strongest list that you can get out of the Nurgle. But I want to focus. Nurgle is stronger than everyone is talking about. People are sleeping on this. This is such a good army right now, isn't it, Stuart?
Yep. And I think what you're gonna see in basically, I would say almost every list is this overwhelming stench guy.
Yeah.
Do not underestimate how broken that command trait is. It's probably the best command trait in the game. That shit is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, so
That's the one that stops you from having CP spent, doesn't it?
yeah.
Stops
So you can't
receiving
use
commands.
command abilities when you're you can't issue command abilities when you're within 7. And if you're wholly within 7, you can't receive them. But the tricky bit is if you're like a big monster hero or something. Often you're not in range of another hero to receive a command, so it's less of an issue for units, I find, than it is for heroes, because units can receive commands from heroes, but heroes can't receive commands from units. So if you're just in range of the heroes, then they can't issue commands really, which just not being able to issue commands is crazy. Just sitting there with 3 command points is like, well, I can't give my guy +1 save, so it's basically like -1 save.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially in AOS 3, where the command points being spent are probably the most impactful they've ever been, with +1 save, +1 hit, battle shock immunity, etc., etc. These things win or lose games and or trades, and that guy's a big pain. And also, I think this army, this list in particular, leans into the really powerful allegiance abilities that Nurgle have got with the heals, the fecundity aura, the summoning. And it wasn't until I watched your show that I realised how many ridiculous allegiance abilities they have
oh
layered on top
yeah,
of each
dude.
other, kind of like Seraphon. And
Oh
Jesus, it's
yeah.
like a bit much, isn't it?
I think the thing is like not any of them are as like apparently bad as the Seraphon ones are. Like the 5-up ward is a horrific allegiance ability, but it's like because it was already there, you're kind of like, it's whatever. But
I hate it. I think it's obnoxious. I
yeah,
really do think it's
it's
really bad,
obnoxious.
bad
It's
for the game.
obnoxious coupled with heals because obviously that's got like that
Better
compounds on
value on
its
those heals. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the summoning's crazy. Yeah, it's just got a bunch of allegiance abilities. The War Scrolls are not the absolute best thing in the world, but Beast of Nurgle definitely has some good weight on its War Scroll. I still think they're worse than the Flyers, but still great list. A few other people are running it, and I think he's done quite well so far. In this list we've also got an Iron Jaws list. I haven't seen the Iron Jaws do that well in any of the TTS tournaments that we've run, like including this one. I
Well,
don't have the
I think
stats on that, but yeah. What do you think,
I
Luke?
mean, my team might have a slightly changed point of perspective from the list that we're running because we're running terrible lists. But the Iron Jaws list that we've come across are probably like the scariest ones when we're looking at the the matchups. Everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to fight that. That thing will just kill me if I get a double." And I think that's true for a lot of matchups. Like, if this thing double, like, it's very simple. It's
Hmm.
it's a bit of a basic bitch list, if you ask me.
It is. Yeah.
Shots fired.
No,
It's
it
it,
is
it's
though.
2 more crushers, a bunch of war chanters, and some pigs. You put your buffs on, you hit the screen, kill the screen, and then if you get the double, you kill the rest of their army.
Yep.
And it's basically can they kill everything? And if you don't get the double, can they kill both more crushers and all the pigs before you then get your turn again? Because the damage of this, like each one of these points, each one of these units can just kill your unit, full to dead, guaranteed. Especially with the rend extra rend from the war and everything, and it is guaranteed to be in your face because of the movement buffs. And it's not like it's fragile. It's still a lot of wounds on a decent save. So
Yeah, it's not
eh,
it's not fragile.
it's really basic list, but powerful and potent. And I think it has the advantage of being simple to play, um, which can kind of help equal out like player skill disadvantages. Like if you've got a really experienced player playing their finicky Lumineth list or whatever, and then you've just put someone that's maybe relatively new to the game on this list, it equals out the playing field a bit, right?
Yeah, I think the issue with this list, and maybe why people will get frustrated with it after a while, is if your opponent plays really well into this, there's not a whole lot you can do. That's the problem with this sorts of list.
If
It's
they screen properly and they know how to get units within 12 of you to stop you getting your mighty destroyers off, they can kill the war chanters with their shooting, and then suddenly your buffs aren't as much. And
yeah.
yeah,
There's just a couple of
yeah.
armies I'm thinking of that are just horrific for this army. Like I mean, just to rattle off Foxes,
Well,
Legion of the First
the
Prince,
other top
Seraphon.
ones, I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
basically all
yeah.
the top control armies you've played well just have no issues against this army, which yeah, that's just
This is
what
a
it is,
noob stomp.
unfortunately.
I call this a noob stomper army, where it's kind of simple army that you can play it simply and basically beat every other army, unless you're playing up against a highly complex army with all the tools to deal with you, piloted by an experienced player. Um, so I think if you bring this to your club game, your friendly club games, I think you're going to win almost 100% of your games. But it'd be interesting to see at the end of the tournament what the win weight is on the Iron Jaws at the
Mm.
end, because I think it's doing well. I know it's caused my team a few problems, but powerful. It's still powerful.
If you want a one-on-one on how to play this army, play against this army, just have any unit within 12 at the start of their turn, okay? And it's just
Yeah.
a nightmare because they can't move, so it's tricky. Now there's a few tricks they can do with that, of course, like with retreating and stuff, but it's yeah, it's still hard against certain matchups. But overall, very strong team. They don't have like I don't think they have a Stormcast player, do they? So they don't have like
Oh, they do not. No.
yeah, they don't have the Avengers of stupid strong lists, but yeah.
I think they've got what could be seen as all the lists if you swapped out the Stormcast for their mighty double idol on IDK list.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know?
But no, respect.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's
you
I think
gotta
that's
bring
what
that
they've done.
shit. All right, so
Absolutely.
in fourth place we got the chosen ones, which is the team I'm on.
It's your team, Stuart.
Yeah. Now we're bringing the absolute filth. Like there's no two ways about it. Like we're just bringing the strongest list we can think of, really. Probably with the
It's also
exception of this KO
comprised.
list. I don't know. I've been talking to Morton about this. I don't know. KO is still all that shit. It's been the same since that book's come out. Where it's just like if you play against someone who knows what they're doing, it's just kind of hard. Like you just got to roll well because you just got to kill so much shit to have a chance to win the game.
The priority roles to go in your way. I think KO are one of the lists that compound the negative connotations people can to have towards the priority role. KO really does that. Like games can be decided turn one priority, or like the turn 1 and 2 priority against KO sometimes, which doesn't feel very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I would say KO players probably find themselves complaining more about the priority than they do celebrating it, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, it's probably the worst design book that they've ever made. I even think the person who made them would agree with that. It's
Absolutely.
it's fine. They just probably just need a bit of a rethink. Yeah, I mean, in their current state, they're pretty good. With the Alpha Beast pack, which is instead of, I mean, I just still can't get over it, but instead of move D6 inches with 2 units, it's move your whole army anywhere on the board. Because like
Yep.
all this stuff's in the boat, and then all this stuff hitches, so you just move your whole army. But I think versus this list, I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but I mean, I would say that if you just play around this thing here, the last word, as long as you play around that, you're probably all right. Yeah.
Playing around that's easier said than done because sometimes you need to get into where it is, sometimes you need to kill it, and what it does, it makes you pay the price of trying to take it on, right? Because
Yeah,
it's
it's
going
not
to
like
get
Unleash Hell
too...
either. You can't just like sack something and then not have to deal with it. It's like you just don't want to take an Unleash Hell and that at the same time with all the buffs up. You just don't want to do that. That's what I'll say. We've all done it. I've sent 20 Plague Bearers in and 16 of them have died. All right, we've all done it. We've all made the mistake and we never do it ever again. That's the important part. We learn. Okay, we got Legion of the First Prince. Yeah, I'd be interested to talk to Tobias about what he thinks about this list as we're going forward at the end of the event. But I don't know if this one will see future play in its current state with the changes that have come through, because there's just so many points sitting there on the board, and a lot of his games are really close anyway. He did play one game versus Ironjaws. I can't remember which round that was. Maybe it was round 2. That was just the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. Just... yeah, Legion of the First Prince
Talk
is
about
awful.
that quickly. I'm conscious, Stuart, that we don't want to turn this into just another list review show. Let's talk about some matchups. How have some of the matchups that your team had gone that maybe have
Well,
surprised
so
people?
I think the Ironjaws matchup, basically the play was, so how how I was saying before that you got to just get one unit within 12, right? Well, the play was
Yeah.
to go first and get a Chaos Spawn within 12. So bin off a War Chanter with the Gift of Change from Kairos, and then get a Spawn within 12, and then Bellicor one of the key units. And he just didn't really get anywhere on turn 1, and he was constantly having to play from behind. And then eventually, Luke, this is the thing that really pisses me off. It's like the Horrors just won the grind in combat against the Gore Grunters. They just killed them all. Like it's just like they
Yeah.
killed like 12 pigs. Like just the Horrors. It's like, what even is that? Like, because it's just so many attacks that you eventually just take him down. Because something like the Gore Grunters are only 15 wounds at a 4-up save. So if you're just rolling like heaps of brimstone attacks every turn. They do eventually go down. So
And this is the thing, like in other trades, if you get the combat advantage, so like pigs obviously do more damage than pinks. We all know that, especially when they're buffed up. But when you're going into a 50 wound unit, you do you do the 12 damage on the pig turn, and they do 4 to you. But because they've got 50, you haven't taken care of them. They still get that number of attacks back to you, and you basically lose
yeah, yeah,
models faster than they do because they're going to be. It's not like you've taken care of them and then you fall. You're not taking damage back. You're taking like 3 or 4 turns worth of pink horrors attacks every single time you go into them because you're not. No one can just one bang a unit of pink horrors really. So you're always going to be getting attacks back, and that's kind of why they become good at dealing damage, even though it doesn't make sense that they would. It's their survivability that makes them get rid of units, right?
yeah. I mean, you're right. In the end of Age of Sigmar, like, you gotta kill shit to not die, and if stuff doesn't die, then it's gonna kill you, basically, right? I mean, even
And that's the pink horrors.
yeah, it's the same with big units and null bars and stuff. So I think he's had, I can't remember what his win score. He might be 1-2 now, but I definitely think it's been interesting to see his tournament so far. Philip, with this horrific list, which he calls his narrative cities. Great meme, by the way, because obviously it's not.
Probably the most horrific one of the most horrific lists in the game, isn't it? Top three, I would say.
It's awful. But
Yeah.
I really have to say, you actually have to play this really well. In a lot of the matchups,
Because you don't have a lot. What
No.
you have is really good, but you don't have a lot of it. Yeah.
So what I was really impressed is last round he played against Soulblight Gravelords. Actually, no, was that? I think he played Seraphon last round. I think it was Soulblight Gravelords before that. So he's played Seraphon and Soulblight Gravelords and stuff like that. He's been playing like hard as nails list the whole tournament, with this list, and yeah, it's been really interesting to watch his games and see the way he plays it, because knowing when to come in and blow your load with the Fulminators is really important, because that unit like does a lot and then doesn't do a lot. Like that's kind of the way it works. Like, because they do 3 damage on the charge, like, you really got to pick your spot. And if you can't get the best charge off, then you need to like put them in a good position where in the following turn they can get a good charge off or something like that. You don't want them to like charge into a screen. I mean, this is the classic like a first time playing Living Cities kind of thing. You don't want them to charge into a screen, lose the turn roll off and just get stuck in combat the rest of the game, because there's no way to retreat and charge or anything like that in here. So if they're stuck in combat, they're stuck there until they clear what's in front of them. So
Not a unit you want to get tagged either, is it?
no, this is not a grinding unit. Whereas the grinding unit in the army is these dragons and the Phoenix. That's really what you use to grind. Your Fulminators are more like your can opener kind of unit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I played a very similar list to this in I think round 2. I think. Now I was ridiculously favored in that battle plan because it was Apex Predators, and I'm playing Nurgle, where you just get to summon a million Sloppity Bile Pipers. But I found it quite hard to play against, because it's just like the threat range of the Stormdrake Guard and the Fulminators is just the whole board. Like, there's just no
one you've got to worry about it.
The only way you can get around the Fulminators is if you like
Go
put
straight down the
everything
middle.
put everything in the middle of the board so they can't get within 18 inches of any of your units. But I mean, that's just not realistic, is it? Like, that's not going to happen. So
No, especially when objectives come into it and things.
yes,
Yeah, it's not good.
Absolutely. So very hard list to play against. Phoenix -1 wound. In all the games I've seen him play, that buff is still just crazy. It does bracket like a motherfucker, I have to say. Like, it's one of those old War Scrolls where like the aura goes down to like 2 inches or something. It might even go down to 1 inch. But when it's on full bracket, it's 9 inches, and that's very tasty. The -1 to wound. Yeah.
Putting stuff into it to try and lower its bracket is usually not the most efficient choice because of the 4-up ward and the fact that it can heal and all these things. So it's hard to deal with still.
And this lady here. Now, I didn't realize this, when we were doing the list review, like what she's for exactly, but basically her role is she starts off the board with the Fulminators, comes on, she has a good shooting attack, when you don't move. So obviously if you come off the board and shoot, then she's got a great shooting attack. think it's like 2 attacks, 3s, neg 2, but then it goes to damage 4 against wizards and demons. So, slappy.
Silly?
Yeah, slappy.
Seriously?
Yeah, slappy for like a
Jeez.
115 point hero. But obviously, main purpose, she can get the Living Cities keyword, and you need someone to use the command ability. So the fade
Yeah.
away. So
Yeah.
you shoot with her, you shoot with the fulminators, and then move the fulminators. That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, everyone knows you need just a hero to come with your fulminators. In the past, we've seen it being like the wizard on Huracanum or something like that, but we're seeing favour of just the least points you can spend to get that command ability off. And it makes sense that a hero that has a shooting attack as well
Yes. Yes.
comes with them, so they can contribute rather than just being the command ability trigger. They can also maybe snipe a wizard or something. That's cool. Yeah, I think she's a great pick.
And then we've got this absolutely gross Seraphon list. This is so gross.
Sam, man, what happened to your Nuzlocking, mate?
Well,
That's
this
what I
this
want to
is
say.
actually Fabian's list, who's on Team Australia, but he gave it to us because he's like, oh, can you test this one out? And I'm like, oh yeah, and I was like, oh man, this is the grossest shit I've ever seen in my life. This is like, this is oh man, this is gross. This list.
How's Sam been getting on with it?
I think he's 2-1. He did have an unfortunate game against the Flesh Eater Courts where he had some of the worst rolling I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Which is what we were saying. Which is what we were saying. That's exactly what I would put my Flesh Eater Courts list into. Would be a big bad like this Seraphon list. That if you get doubled and diced, it can take you off. And isn't that not what happened with his
well,
unfortunate dice?
yes, that he did well. I would say Little Tank maybe didn't have like the most incredible dice on his part. It was more just like Sam's. I mean, there was one Basti roll where he just took off a Basti with the Maw. It would pop in 2 6s. But the biggest part of Sam's thing was just this Skink Chief just walking around whiffing. Like, it was funny. It was like watching you, Luke. He was like, oh, and I hit on 2s. And it was like, it's rolled 6 dice. It's like 4 1s. It's like, oh. And it's like, oh, yeah, those were 5 damage or whatever. It's like, oh, man. Like, because
Yeah, no,
that Skink Chief is like on his buffed up turn, he's got like +3 attacks, 2s rerolling 1s and 2s, and he's still just like whiffed like a motherfucker every time. It's
I know how it
it
feels, Stuart.
sucks.
Especially with the 5 damage. Did I tell you about the time? Bit of a tangent. Did I tell you about the time I was at the club? I was playing against the Seraphon Thunder Lizards list, and he had dragons, Storm Drake dragons, and I put a Lariel into the dragons, +1 attack, pop the frozen kernel, fight twice to get rid of 2 dragons. Right. Um. So that's that's 10 attacks with the mounts, which are 3s and 2s. I hit with 2 of them, wounded with 1 of them on 2s. That was the first time. Fought again. Got all 5 attacks in or something like that, which was great. Landed them all. -2 end, and then he passed all of his 5 up saves. Minus
Yeah,
2 end,
yeah,
and that was 10 attacks. With a L'Oreal with 5 damage each. Just 2 or 3 of the attacks going through would have got the unit off, and that's what happens with all these high damage attacks sometimes. That with the
it
low
is.
number of dice, you can just lose to your own dice rolling. This is why I keep doing it, apparently.
I remember. I think I had my Frost Spear, so the old winter buy artifact from Ogres, where you get like +1
Yeah,
damage. I think I played versus Pask once in a it was a TTS tournament, but it was like Melbourne only, in Australia during the
I
lockdown.
remember. Yeah,
But I remember my Frost Salt and Stonehunt went in with like -5 or -6 on his lance, and was on 2s and 2s, and I hit with 3 out of 4, and then just rolled 3 1s to wound. And I was just like,
yeah.
and I went in. I went
It's
in.
like
This is no joke. With Metal Cruncher and Mortals, I did 2 damage to a Stonehorn Beast Rider with a full profile of a Frost Lord on Stonehorn on 2s and
it's like
2s.
dice know. Dice know when the damage is big. It's like they know when it's a lot riding on the 1 dice, and it's like, no, I'm gonna misbehave at this point. I mean, we'll talk about it when we talk about my warp lightning cannons. But yeah, fucking dice.
All right.
So you're 2-1, Stuart. Your team,
Yeah.
not bad, pretty respectable. Could be better if you asked me, considering you were bringing filth. But there you go.
Yep.
Can't do anything about that.
I mean, last couple of lists we've had, I mean, Orkman playing Dragon Ogres. He's had a sort of up and down tournament. I think. I don't know if Beasts of Chaos are maybe. I think they're great. I think they're great. They're great. I think they're great. Don't get me wrong. But having seen them play in this tournament, they're not flawless. Okay, like I've seen them lose to things where it's like, how the f did they lose to that? Like
they're just fragile. They're just still really fragile.
Yeah. You're still running around with just bin war scrolls. With like you're giving them like giving them steroids, like just giving them like some protein powder or something. But they're definitely just like still just like. A weedy little man.
They're still just bad war scrolls, but now with Rend. Like it's not that they're good. They're just bad with better Rend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're still undercosted in terms of bodies, but they're very fragile.
Oh, it's a lot of shit, definitely, and it makes for some very long games with all the summoning. And I don't like that at all. I wish they wouldn't do that, but.
It's the same as Soulblight, like the ones that they've given a lot of wounds and survivability to, they've also given summoning, so you just never out of the game.
Yeah,
every game is around 5 thing, yeah.
And the Soulblight as well, everything having a 6-up ward. I don't know how you feel about that, Luke, but I would like them to not have that as a game mechanic on armies with like more than 20 models.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it just slows down the game.
It just means it slows the game down. Yeah. Oh, snap, jinx. Yeah, said it.
Yeah.
Just slows down the game too much. It's unnecessary. It doesn't actually add any. It doesn't add any variance to the. It doesn't make this unit particularly tankier or anything. It literally just means I have made the game take longer. It doesn't put any flavor on any different kinds of units. It doesn't take skill into it. It just slows the game down.
Yep.
But anyway, Stuart, I think we need to talk about the Spanish Inquisition, which I was not ready for. Did not expect that.
We did not expect that one.
These are our turn 4, round 4 opponents.
I really like these guys. We had tons of fun when we played these guys. Yeah. So I played. Where are we? Where's this list?
Nice guys.
I played Jorge in round 2, and we just had like. I can't even describe it. It was like a piece of modern art or something. It was like if I wasn't playing him and we weren't enjoying ourselves, like it would have just been one of the worst games I've ever played, because it was just like the luck on both sides was something else. Like something else, man. Like me never getting Blow-Ab spell off ever, even when he wasn't in unbind range. Every time he rolled a 2-up save, it was just like, here comes a 1. Like it was just like anytime I was like, all right, I did 1 wound with the Plague Bearers, and he's like, here's a 1. Just like every time with the Stormdrake Guards. Yeah, it was an absolute clusterfuck of a game, but we had a great time.
Yeah, but Jorge's list, let's just quickly talk about it, because our poor man Tavi in his Slanesh has got to try and deal with this next. It's like Philip's list, except he's traded out the Phoenix for all the crossbowmen. So this is, I think, such a simple tactic, a way to play the game. It's come on from the board edge, shoot the screen off, move to the gap, and then charge the juice behind it, and almost win in 1 turn. And that can usually often be turn 1 as well. It's pretty obnoxious.
Yes,
it's
really
strong.
I would say it does the damage, and then that's it. Like it's got nothing else. Yeah. It's like it does the thing, and then it has nothing else left. It has the 1 play when it wants to send everything in, and then that's all it has. So I was talking to him about it during the game.
Can win a game.
Yes.
Right.
So I mean, in our game, it was just like a classic example of, just never give up. And like now knowing his list and having played it and seeing it played, with Philip's list as well, it's like if you can just have an army that can just hold on and have some like late game stretch, you actually got a pretty good win rate into this army. It's just gonna look horrific. Like in turn 2, it's gonna look horrific because like I lost my Guo and Blow-Ab and like almost my whole army turn 2, but I just managed to pull it back with 20 Plague Bearers and some heroes. I mean the scenario helps.
By the battle plan.
The battle plan helped, but I still would have been ahead on points anyway. Just with the way, like if it was First Blight or something, I still would have been ahead on points as well. Just because he ran out of stuff. He just hadn't got enough stuff in here.
Yeah,
in our game,
have the bodies.
Once the 20 Plague Bearers got into the 30 Crossbowmen, I think the game was over. Because they're just stuck there now. that's just plague bearers for you. It's just kind of this
Hey,
depression that
so
seeps in.
so you managed to beat him out by sort of outlasting them, trying to think about the late games and all of that. Our man Tavi with the survivable Sinesh Stewart.
No hope.
How's he gonna
No
do?
hope. There's no way. I'm sorry, Tab. There's just no way. Because
I
Slanesh is
want
one
to
of those
call out
lists that.
Jorge here.
Well, I mean, I would love to see that game, but I think it would be over very quickly. The problem with Slanesh is there's not enough durability to just survive long enough. Like with Slanesh, you're looking to like play the early
Take
game really
advantage of
slow.
your summon, yeah.
Yeah, you want to play the early game
Yeah.
super slow so you can accrue summoning points, get board presence. In the right matchup, you can go in an alpha with all the steed dudes. But other than that, dude, like it's gonna be rough in this matchup, especially with the crossbow, man. I just don't know what he does. Like, don't all the Blizzbarb archers just die turn 1? Like,
I was doing the matchup process for this. Me and Jorge were having a good laugh about it, and it was the second one, map 2. My turn to submit a player, so I was like, I'll put Tavi on the Vice. He likes the Vice. He's got fast movement and all of that, and he can block movement and stuff. Yeah, put Tavi on the Vice. And then Jorge goes, he can have living cities or dock Marathi Ghost Snakes. And I said, you bastard, you cruel bastard. What has he
yeah,
done
yeah,
to deserve
Slanesh.
that? And so I said, Tavi, you're on the bus. Which bus do you want to take? And we reckon that this would cause more problems for the rest of us than the Marathi, even though it's still going to cause problems. But yeah, nasty people. But they're going to do well, I think. I think these lists are really good, and they're good guys. They're all part of the Spanish Worlds team, aren't they? I think a lot of them. So
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of strong lists here. I know. In our matchup, unfortunately, the Nurgle got to play against KO, which it's not very fun. I've been there on the receiving end of that in practice many times, and Nurgle has no hope against KO. It's like by the end of turn 1, it's like, oh please God, end it. Like it's just they just shoot off half your army, and then your other army is just staring at like the pile of dead bodies, and it's like, oh, we'll get there, but we just need to catch like 7 trains to get there, because we all move 4 inches. So it's just like he just moves his whole army to one side of the board, and he's like, that's dead. And then you're like, all right, I'll deal with that tomorrow. And then he's like, and then he just goes to the other side of the board.
To the other side of the board. Yeah.
it's like, oh shit. And Mr. Guo here with his 4-inch move, who does like most of your damage in your army, is just like, oh, where are all my friends gone? Because you just shoot everything else off, and then it's like, what does he do? What's he gonna do? So I think it was pretty depressing, but yeah. I know that in our last tournament, I think Kalanos was playing Legion in the First Prince, and I think he's quite new to this army, but it's definitely
similar playstyle though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Soul Blight and the First Prince.
And
Lots
I think
of crap
it's
and
where
control.
stuff's moving to, right? I think a lot of people are moving away from the skeletons. Just because if you play against a super experienced player, that thing where the dream where you roll a 4 up and get all the stuff back, and then do the double pile in, and then do it again. If your opponent's good, it's just really hard to get off.
I want to call Kalanos out very quickly because he's the only game that's played for this round. We put Alan Spogmut-Job and his Nurgle into him, and they played yesterday for round 4. Kalanos' list has got 204 wounds, right? All with the 6-up ward, summoning, and he made every single one of his respawn rolls 5 turns out of 5 turns. So this guy had like 500 wounds in his list. It was utterly ridiculous, and it was Alan played out of his mind and was able to get 1 point victory. But
Alan's
but
got
5 out of 5 respawns is not on. That is not acceptable.
Alan's playing Black Kings, though. That's what they're for. Like this is the list where you're like you're rubbing your hands with the Black Kings. You're just like, all right, this justifies the whole reason I brought these guys is that they're great at killing crap. So, normally for Nurgle, I'd say a Soul Blight who makes his respawn rolls would be horrific, but. Alan's list is interesting, which we'll get to. I think it's Team TO.
No, I think the Soul Blight list beats Nurgle, but Alan's Nurgle list is slightly skewed. That it's 3 units of 5 Blight Kings and 3 Maggot Lords, and I really like Alan's list. I think
let's talk about that now.
Than people play.
Because it looks
should
quite
we go to
weird.
Team TO?
Yeah. It looks quite weird on paper. I'll just zoom in a little bit. I probably should have done that a bit earlier, but
so this is my team, and we're talking about Alan, who's a top player, and he's been doing Nurgle. I know Nurgle's the hot topic at the moment between me and you, Stuart, because you're playing it and Alan's playing it, and it's one of those books that I think people got wrong when it first came out, and we're now
Absolutely.
seeing the
Yeah.
strength of it. So,
Yeah.
Alan's list I really like.
Yeah. Now, the thing that I like in this list that I haven't seen enough people take is this grandfather's blessing thing here. Which, if you're not taking the
Right.
Lord of Afflictions, who is quite expensive at 215 points, this is
This
the
is
other
wheel
command trait.
change, isn't it?
Yes, and the big part that makes the wheel change important is that he has the 3 Maggot Lords. So that 4-up ward turn is like obnoxious to deal with.
Yeah. You got 3 monsters all on a 4-up board. It's
Yeah.
horrific.
So,
Yeah.
Morbid X has got 3-up armor save, 4-up ward, and heals half his wounds every battle shock phase. It's just like, oh man. Like, just
That's
obnoxious.
enough if you get that at the right moment, that can win a game. And the Log of Plagues with the command traits increases your chances of getting that happening at the right moment.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
great little bit of combo.
Yeah, it's just got like a bunch of toolboxy kind of stuff here. The Putrid Black Rings are great for just
I
trading
like
up.
them. I think they're good. Yeah, they're just.
Yeah.
I'm being really turned on to these units, the sort of 200, 250 point units. Kind of elite screens, I think, where they don't need to be screened themselves, but they're not your 10 skinks, or your 10 for a guild guard, or 20 clan rats. And they can do bits of their own. They're not just mono purpose. They're not just stand in front of your squishy stuff. They can contest objectives. They can kill your opponent's screens. They can roadblock slightly harder than 10 skinks or something can. Um, I've been putting units like this into my list. Like I've just put 5 protectors into my Silver Nether list, which do a similar sort of role as the Blight Kings from the Stormcast allies. And I think there's something to be said of a unit type like this. Alan's gone quite heavy on having 3 units of this type of screen, but not that Nurgle has these 10 skinks that you can have. But I think that's a unit type that needs more attention. Don't you think?
I think Alan's list here is really like a good punish for castle armies. I think that's what you would describe it as, because
Yeah.
it's like with the shooting stuff, I just don't even know what you would shoot here. Because you kind of need to deal with everything, because if you've got like the 10 skinks in the front, Putrid Black Wings just slap the shit out of them. Like, they're just gone. They're not going to take any damage in the process. Skinks are dead. And then suddenly you just lost them for free. You're down on the objectives now because these Blight Kings, they do count for 6. Because the champion,
Vikings, because they're screened off against the Maggot Lords. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
screens that can do damage. So they put you in a position where you have a screen and your opponent doesn't, which I think's game winning sometimes.
Yeah, and you just end up with a situation where I know he played Seraphon in the last round, where it's like, and I watched most of that game, and it was basically like Alan just sent his stuff in, cleared off all like the stuff in the front, and then the Seraphon's just sitting there with basically Gotrek and all his shooting stuff, and it's just not enough to get through what's left. It's just nowhere near enough, because the way that the shooting castle armies win is by picking particular stuff off at the right time. But because this list has such like an even curve of wounds, it's like every unit is kind of the same thing. There's not really like a particular target that if you shoot off, you're going to start winning the game. It's like, I got to deal with everything to stay up on the objectives. And yeah, I mean, most shooting armies just can't do enough damage to get through it. So I think it's a clever list, definitely.
I want to pick up something that the one other person watching us live has picked up on. Blood Warriors, the original elite screen. Well, if you like Blood Warriors, Calvin, let me talk to you about
Where is
Trogdor's
he?
list. And what we have done, Stuart, is we thought, right, Khorne. We were doing a team tournament. We've been up against a couple of teams with some really nasty shooting lists. Who should we put into them? Khorne. It's what we've done every time. Poor Trog. We've given him 2 Lumineth and Doc. So
He's 2-1, isn't he, though?
yeah, it's not as bad as it seems because of his particular Khorne list. You love this list, Stuart.
I think it's hilarious. When I first saw this, I was like, oh my god. I just know someone as well. This is one of those lists where you run, where like you're going to play someone and you're going to get close to beating them or beat them, and there's going to be this like light bulb that goes off in their head like, Oh, Blood Warrior is good, and the answer to that question is definitely no.
No, no.
But it's the fact that you can make them think that is what makes this list so beautiful. You know,
Well, I
it's great.
think this list don't focus on the Blood Warriors. Focus on like it sounds really weird to describe, but this list kind of plays similar to Legion, the First Prince, or Soulblight. I think those Blood Warriors are kind of like poor man pink horrors,
Yes, they are. Yeah,
and then you
absolutely. Yeah,
and then Scarbrands like Be'lakor. Like that's how I picked this list.
it's a wacky list,
And
man.
it plays in a way where it gums you up and what you need to commit to take off because that's 60 wounds in one of those units,
It is,
and
and they
they
pile in
do
attack when they die. That's the problem. So you just
yeah.
take a lot of
So
damage in the
they're
process. Yeah.
of getting through them. Imagine if Pink Horrors split and did the mortal wound blow up thing. It's kind of what the Blood Warriors do, where they suffer you, they punish you from trying to kill them, but you have to try and kill them because that's Trogdor's entire army. It's over 1,000 points of his army, so it can catch a lot of people out. And we've been putting into Lumineth and stuff like that, which has great range pick-off potential. So Scarbrand's fucking dead. The Bloodstake is dead. The Bloodstake is dead. But can a unit of 10 Wardens and some Foxes outbody 30 Blood Warriors and
That's
take them
so
off?
funny.
No. No, it
No.
can't. So Trogdor wins those games,
Well,
and
he didn't win one of
it's
them.
been really funny to watch
He
that.
didn't. Well,
He
he
didn't
didn't
win
win the
one of
one
them.
where the Lumineth player had more bodies, right? So that's the lesson there. Yeah.
That was Tensura, which we saw
Yeah.
before with
With
his.
the Wardens. So
I think he's got
obviously
like 50 or 60 Wardens.
the
Yeah,
Wardens are gonna beat the Blood Warriors because they're actually a good war scroll. But um, hey. Also, just mad respect because I've seen Trog play this army. It's like the ultimate 32mm training camp. Like
takes so much brain
it's
power to
like
do this.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get him in. I'm gonna get him in. And then it's like, okay, I've got to pile in an attack with them. So I've got to position it in a way where, like, if this guy dies, he can move 3 inches and then get in a hexagonal shape behind the guy in front of him, so that then he can attack, like stuff like that. It's like the ultimate, just like Games Workshop. Why did you do this to my models? Like
yeah.
it's hard to play with, definitely. But he's definitely a champion for bringing it along. Yep.
Um. Well, I think now's the time, Stuart. I'm going to pat my team and myself on the back because we've taken, with the exception of probably
Oh
Alan
yeah,
and Steve,
these lists are awful.
we've taken some garbage lists, and we're 2-1, Stuart. We're at
Yeah,
the top of the
yeah,
board.
I
We're at the
know.
top half of it. What's going on? What's been the view from an outsider, Stuart? You know, I'm a bit biased. How have Team TO been doing? What has been going on? Because there's
Oh
been some upsets from us,
yeah,
man.
I think I've been impressed with. I think you guys have been slightly swingy. I would say that, like, there's been definitely times where it's like, oh man, they're gonna win now, and then it's like someone just gets randomly 20-0 shit stomped on your team, and just like, oh okay, back down to reality.
Put my hand up there. Yeah.
There's been a couple. I think most of you have gone through one now, right? Yeah,
Most
but
of
I
us
think
have lost. I think with Stuart or Steve being the exception, most of us have just had our reality checked and been 20-0 stomped once by now. But we've also done some upsets too, like equal amounts of us, which has been really nice.
what I'm learning in this team events process is just like, it's just not the same game as singles Age of Sigmar, like even remotely the same game. Um, and I
There's
think
a lot
when
more nuance to it.
I really hope at Worlds, which is kind of what this event is the practice for, that people don't just like, look up the Honest Wargamer stats, which are amazing. I don't want to badmouth them, but you don't want to look up those stats and then just bring the top 6 armies or 8 armies,
Yeah.
because I don't think that's the right answer, because Age of Sigmar, I think more than the head to head, or more than just, sorry, win percentage. It's more about the head to head, and then the head to head on specific battle plans. That matters,
Yeah,
like,
this is about
more than
team
the army strength.
composition, list type. I think like having types
Yeah,
of lists, like we've talked about the bully list, the crap list, the shooting lists. Getting the perfect combination of those sort of lists and gatekeepers and you need to have a list to focus on your opponent's big bad. So like one of the things I noticed in this tournament, a lot of the Seraphon lists are taking double Bastiladons to try and counter the Legion of the First Prince Be'lakor. I think you see more of that in the team tournaments that is its whole sub game within the game, isn't it? And it's been really enjoyable. Um, Team TR have done none of that. and we just played whatever crap we wanted.
Well,
Um,
I kind of think it's you know it's well, I mean we were talking. I mean Luke and I are kind of in a bit of a Pokemon phase right now, so we are talking Pokemon before the show. But I think it's a little bit like Pokemon and like if you go on those battle simulators, there's always like a 1v1 mode, which is always like terrible, right? It's always just like you just bring some like hacky Pokemon with like a Hydro Cannon or something with like a water gem. It's like, oh, I outspeed you when you're dead. Which I feel like singles Age of Sigmar can sometimes be that, where it's like, oh, here we go, here come the dragons, and you're dead. But
scissors, and I've got rock, and you've got scissors.
yes. Whereas I think I think the team Age of Sigmar is more like the full 6-team Pokemon, which is actually why it's actually why the thumbnail is Pokemon themed. It's like we have this Smeargle who knows like these like 2 specific moves or something that's going to help me in these situations. It's more like that. You got to actually think about team composition more beyond just the pure strength of one bang take you off list. It's there's a lot more to think about, I think. And I hope
we've kind of accidentally done it because
yes,
I think what we've done is we've got enough. We've got casino list, which is what we're talking about. We use Little Tank as an example with the spec.
This one, right?
My Skaven list,
Yes.
my Skaven list is a casino list to the max, where you bus it into something utterly terrible, and every now and then it'll give you it'll treat
Yep.
it'll poop out a little win for you. Where I've just one-shot Gotrek with a Warp Lightning Cannon, and then I killed a load of Fulminators with my Stormcast, and oh my god, did I just beat the Living Cities list? Fuck, you know.
And I love gamers as well, Luke, because I love Warhammer players. It's hilarious because like you did that, and then instantly it's like this haze of rumors like dissipates on the server where people just like, are Skaven good? And it's like people just like, oh man, did you see those Storm Fiends the other night? Like people just start like this collective fear just assembles, and it's like this. I just want people to know this list is not good. Okay, it's just like it sometimes seems good, but it's not. It's just it's that casino thing we were talking about before. Absolutely,
Yeah. And then they watched my game against Nurgle, and I rolled.
Back to reality.
I blew up my cannon, turn ons, and the other 2 cannons rolled 6s on their power level and did 2 wounds against Nurgle, and I think, fuck. Yeah, back to reality. But there is something. I mean, it's really horrible. It's not something a Spike player like me should be running at all. But it's giving a refreshing perspective on Warhammer and dice and random probabilities. It's fun.
But
and then,
but I want to say Skaven is like the original. I think it's like there's a Johnny element to it, but I actually feel more that it's actually a Spike Timmy army because it's like
Spike Timmy. I think it's all of them. I think it's Spike Timmy. Yeah, it's a Spimmy list, and I am the Spimmy.
Well, because the reason is because like the Spike in you goes, I want to do more damage in this moment, okay, and then the Timmy part goes, and we might blow up. and then the Spike part goes like, but is it more effective than not doing it? And then the Timmy guy goes, it is. So you just do it, and everyone's happy. Every part of your personality's happy. So, it's a good list for you, I think. Yeah, definitely.
But we've got the casino list that we've been bussing into the hard ones and see if we can pull out an upset. But in the team format, like Trogdor's list with the bodies, Alan's list, and Steve's list with the bodies list, so we've got those archetypes. I think what we're missing is a bully list, which is something with a big bunch of monsters that can do loads of damage. Alan kind of fills that role.
I'm sorry, the 4 units of 10 Warhounds just crack me up every time.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Hippie, because Hippie's done so well. He did some upsets. He nearly did it against Iron Jaws of all things. But I really like those 10 Warhounds because they're just fast Ungors. They're just fast Ungors. It's great.
It's so funny how much room they take up, though. Like it's just these huge.
But that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, but they're 80 points, for those huge bases.
I mean, as the captain, Hippie's had to come to me and go, Luke, I can't play this battle plan. I go, why not? You'd be good on that. He goes, no, I can't fit my army.
I can't deploy my army.
I can't deploy my army.
So just got Dragon Ogres and Warhounds, the biggest bases ever. Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. It's like, can you put me on the battle plans with big deployment zones, please? I don't care. I'm like, fucking hell, it's so strange. But yes, I'll do
Also,
that for you,
shout out
sir.
to my friend Kevin who's in the chat from Osaka. G'day. Thanks for tuning in. All right. I
Yeah,
think we can
so
move on from
watch
Team
out.
TO. Yeah.
Well, I just want to quickly say, and we said it at the start of the tournament as a joke, that if we beat any team, then we're going to ban you from the server. That wasn't a joke. You get your bans in the post
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
tournament, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, they're coming.
All right. Should we talk about Nosgoth next? On
These guys
in
probably
the
had the
2-1.
hardest lists.
I think these
Probably
guys have
had the
had a
best
pretty
list
hard
in the
run
tournament.
though. Actually, like I think
They've had a rough time of it.
Yeah, I think they've had some hard matchups.
I thought they'd be doing better than this, and that isn't any disrespect. It's kind of like just one of those things that happens in a tournament where sometimes the favourite gets a bit of a rougher time of it than you'd expect.
I'd be interested to talk to Pitari. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but this Seraphon list, I don't think he's done like exceptionally well with it so far. With all the
He hasn't.
salamanders,
No.
I think a lot of the matchups where he would get a close victory, before he's maybe finding more difficult.
I think
With this
the
list.
Seraphon's got it's the monsters. It's the Skink Chief and the Engine and the God and one unit of Salamanders that make it tick. I think Seraphon's strength is that it can have lots of different varieties of units, like one unit of Salamanders, one Engine of the Gods, one unit of Coxagors, or one unit of uh whatever. And just going all in on one isn't the way you want to play Seraphon, I don't think. I think you want to have the
No,
power of the
no,
variety.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
I
why
think
the
that
All
I think you're right.
Stegodon one is good, but doesn't work as much. The All Salamander one is good, but doesn't work as much. It's the combination of all three or four threat pieces that really tick up Seraphon to being the best army in the game, which they are.
They are definitely the best army in the game. Yeah, but just maybe this spammy kind of thing is maybe not as good. We just got a comment in the chat. Is that right? Is Hippie's list 70 points under?
Hey, Triumphs are good.
Oh my god, it actually is. That's hilarious. Oh my god. Oh,
He could put more in there if he wanted, but he doesn't.
Was he just like, it's just too much stuff anyway? I don't
I
know.
think he
That's
said I don't have the models, which is hilarious because we're on TTS, but that still stands.
Anyway, but back to Nosgoth. We've had some rule stuff as well. We're still a bit up in the air how to play this guy, this Aventus Firestrike thing. Yeah,
GWY, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause it's an aura, but it isn't.
it is an aura, but it isn't.
Basically.
So we're unsure what to do about that. But I think the way that it's being ruled now is like you move, and then if he puts up a 3-inch aura until the next hero phase, you still got to stay within it. Which I know that's not how people play it, but it does unfortunately seem that it's direct words is what actually happens there. So, bit tricky. So maybe that list is not as good as it appeared. And yeah, apologies we didn't sort that out at the start of the tournament. But this is the only Tauralon present. Yeah.
In the entire of Warhammer history, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than that,
what have these guys gone into, Stuart? Because we know the list are really strong. What are the teams that they've been playing? Have they been playing some of the other top teams?
I don't think necessarily. Well, they did play DIM, so that they did. I think they lost big in that matchup. So that's one of the 3-0 teams. But they played Team Not in the Face round 1, which they won, but not by a huge amount. And they did cap the last round. So it was really just the big loss to Team DIM in the second round, which has kind of put them lower down on the standings. I do feel I'm interested what they think after the tournament is. This looks like a lot of a similar kind of thing all the way through. Like a lot of this is like go in and do damage. Like a lot of these lists kind of, you look at Marathian, the Bow Snakes, Iron Jaws, Fulminators.
Types we're talking about.
This is more of a control one, but then the Stormcast and then the Seraphon. All of these are like really damagey lists.
They're the police. They're all the shooting ones. They haven't got as much of those crap lists, which I think.
No, they've got one. They've got one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's kind of 5 damagey ones with like not that many tools, and it's all just about like You know,
No. I think
yeah,
I want to. So the Spanish Inquisition, which we're around for, as the guy that was doing the matchups, that had kind of two of each type of list. They had two
yeah,
controlly body lists, they had two punchy, powerful lists, and two shooting lists. Made it really hard to do matchups into, where this is a bit more skew. So if you happen to be skew too, then you can get around the strength of the list by putting favourable list types into them or on the battle plans and stuff like that. So I
yeah.
think
And
whilst these lists are strong, they're more vulnerable to the fact that it's a team tournament.
I feel like the shooting list as well. I mean, I think in our team, probably the KO is probably one shooting list too far for us. Um, and we probably could do with another melee one in there. I know. I think at that point we'd have no shooting armies, but I've just found that like they just get bullied too hard by stuff like Soul Blight. It just if Soul Blight, Legion of the First Prince are in every list, like the super low body shooting stuff just gets a bit bullied in the pairings because you really just can't take that pairing. So the fact that you can't take that pairing often means that you can't hold the shooting list until map 5 or 6, the last two maps, because if you do that, there's the risk of getting a bad one. Especially if you're on the side of the pairings where you can't pick the matchup in 5 and 6, which is the attackers. Yeah, so too many shooting lists is an issue, I think. And that's great that that's an issue. I love that. And that's what's so great about the team format, because obviously in
In
singles,
singles, you
which
can
I think
win.
where
You can
most of
win the
these lists are
shooting list.
from, right? Like all these are
These
really
are all
strong
single
singles lists.
lists. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like as a team composition, maybe it feels like too many cooks in the kitchen a little bit. I think.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think whilst obviously I'm not saying it's good to see Nosgoth losing, but it's good to see that what is really strong in singles doesn't it doesn't translate as
yeah,
you'd expect into teams, and that means that there's another way to play Warhammer. And if you're not one of these guys that wants to keep on top of the meta and have the most broken janky list, check out teams. We're really enjoying it, and there's a lot more strategy than you would think. And even me and Stuart are learning as we go along the matchup process and playing these games that there's a lot more nuance to the team format. And I think what we're focusing on at the moment is list types and how that they compare and what lists can make up those list
absolutely.
subgenres, and it's really cool.
Okay, should we talk about
Right.
Team Not in the Face?
Yes, we're at
Hilarious.
the tables here, so we're still on 2-1s. Great team name. How have these guys been doing?
Yeah, I think pretty well so far. They've got a few interesting lists in here. I know they've had some members be sick and have some other scheduling issues and stuff here. But I know Poro's done really well with the Lumineth. Lumineth, by the way, thus far in the tournament has
Team
done really
tournament
well.
list.
Yeah, it's Lumineth are
Great team
absolutely
tournament list. Yeah.
fantastic in teams. Um, yeah, I think it
Well,
wells.
by
You're
great,
going to
because
see
I
a lot of
think,
people play
I
them.
mean, really bad. That we said it. I've noticed when we do the list with you show, we're like these Lumineth lists, especially with things like Foxes and Sentinels, are just going to be administering 20-0s. Like if you get a half
Yeah,
decent matchup,
yeah.
or you just 20-0 every single time. Um, and I want to, yeah, I think in the situation where you can kind of, I've noticed when you're doing the matchups, you can kind of have one or two lists that you treat as like your star players that you're gonna make sure get the favorable matchups. And Lumineth feels like a star player list every single time to me, where you want to maybe sacrifice another matchup to get these guys a good matchup, and they will get you the 20-0 every time. And that's what's been happening, isn't it?
Well, I think even more so than the matchup selection with Lumineth, I think the battle plans
Battle plan, yeah,
is
for sure.
huge for them, because there are a few battle plans, like the
The
Vice,
Vice,
which is just
yeah,
like
horrific.
any matchup, like they can handle on that map. That's the thing. It's like
Yeah,
even bad matchups, they're like on the Vice, I can play it. So there's that thing with certain armies where they have certain missions. Like I would say Nurgle on Apex Predators is pretty much unbeatable, because of all the summoned heroes.
you can summon in. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Um, and power and numbers with Beasts of Chaos. It's just
Yeah, or
like,
Soul Blight.
yeah,
Yeah,
or Soulblight. Feral Foray with Soulblight. Also horrific. Stuff like that. There's some armies that just have like a super strong battle plan. And in a normal tournament, because you can't really control that, you don't really get to see how that influences the as the tournament as it goes on. But here we're really seeing like,
Yeah.
okay, there's the Vice this round. I'm on the side of the matchup, so there's like basically a 50% chance, depending on whether you're allocated as the defender or attacker in that round, that you would get to choose, to put Lumineth on that map. So in the current round we're in, I believe the Vice is map 2, so the attackers, who are the team with the lower point total, would get to choose to put Lumineth on this map. And basically you go like, okay, I'm putting Lumineth on this map, and then your opponent can put two armies into that, and then you pick from one of them. So
Yeah, so they're the ones that are your star players. That they get the special treatment. They get the choice of the battle plan, and then get to choose out of two. And Lumineth are a
yes,
great one. I'll be really interested to see Stuart. Um, we haven't access to them right now, but at the end of the tournament,
yeah, we'll have
the
some individual
faction
stats on factions and stuff.
faction
Yeah,
stats, and I'm gonna guess my prediction is that Lumineth and Nurgle are gonna have the two highest win rates.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's more than likely going to be the
Which
case.
is not the case in singles, right? But I think here
No,
it's going to
because
be.
for Nurgle, depends on Nurgle. I think there's lots of lists going around, so it's not quite like Lumineth where it's more or less the same thing. With Nurgle, like whether you're playing Beasts of Nurgle or you're playing more like a castle army like mine, or you're playing like Flies and Beasts of Nurgle, kind of pretty similar.
Yeah.
But you know, like in my case, power struggle horrific. Okay, like too many objectives. Feral Foray, even worse. I can't do the
Yeah.
burning ones. Even the Beast of Nurgle suck at the burning ones. So being able to dodge those battle plans just instantly just boosts your win rate hugely, because I can just go like, okay, well, there are 2 out of 6 of the maps I can play this round that are awful for me, but on all the other 4 ones I can play anything. Put me into anything and I'll be fine just because of the battle plan. So there are armies like that definitely have the swing just because of the battle plan. And the Worlds format, which is what this is kind of built after, has the same thing, but because it's 8-player teams, I feel like that effect is even exacerbated, because you're like, okay, I have 5 maps I can play on now, and then it's like you get, because you got 5 maps, you're gonna have more of a control over the actual matchup as well. So, yeah, I think
Stuart,
it's
do you
think it's
think
huge.
we've both just agreed for once that we reckon Lumineth and Nurgle are going to be the strongest team
Yeah.
team tournaments? Do you reckon that has any correlation to the fact that they both have bullshit piling stopping stuff? Because all these other MPE sort of mechanics.
Well, I think they tick all the boxes. So so far we've talked about the battle plan choice, the matchup choice, but they have both of those. So they have certain battle plans that they're going to smash anybody on. They have certain matchups where they smash like that particular matchup, and then they also have a casino element. All of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in Lumineth's case, getting
The
Lambent
wards.
Light off,
Yeah.
and then or the wards, so getting protection of Hish off is one thing, but then also getting Lambent of Light off, and then if you spike with those 30
King your
Sentinels.
mortals.
Yeah, if
Oh,
you spike and do like 26 mortars with those 30 sentinels, like you can often just win a game.
win the
because of
game.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then with Nurgle, like the Bile Piper
Ankle.
whole,
Oh,
well, the Bile Piper whole thing where he stops you piling in actually kind of has a casino element, because often you have to like make the right charge, get him in the right position. Like it's not exactly casino because we're not rolling dice and odds and stuff. It's more like there's like kind of a random scenario which emerges in the game where,
it's situational.
yeah, a random situation emerges where it's like, it happened in my game
Game winning.
against
Yeah.
Gitz, where it's like, if I get the double turn here, I'm locking his whole army in with Plague Bearers for the rest of the game. Like that's literally what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like, I tag one unit with the Plague Bearers and then blow them off with the monster, and then everyone else is stuck at 2.9 and we're there the whole game. So yeah, just those 2 big threats I think makes Lumineth and Nurgle the big bads. So
Not
interested to
fun
see
though.
how
They're
we
not fun
go.
to play against. They're just good at winning. Like they.
Well, I
Yeah.
love me some Nurgle, and I know the Lumineth players love their Lumineth. Hey, everyone looks evil.
I
when
think
you're
they're the
winning.
list there. Yeah, they're not MPE to play with. They're really fun to play with, and there's a lot of layers to them. But to play against, they're just nightmarish. Right. So not in the face have been doing some of that with their list, and they've got
Yes.
some other list that you'd expect with they've got again
Yeah,
good mix. They've got a bully list here with the more crushers and all of that.
and
So
then
I
Soul Black
reckon these
Grave
guys
Lords
could
is
do all
in
right.
most teams. Kind of similar
Yeah,
lists. We're seeing Hero Battery and then Zombies and Graveguard. That's pretty much what we're seeing now. Um, yeah. Uh, One of the more heavy into dragons lists here. I know this one's. I think he might be 3-0. He might be 2-1 or 3-0 with this list. Very strong list, obviously. Um, yeah, personally, it's a small thing with the list, but I do think the Stormdrake Guard in teams should be in Hunters of the Heartlands. That's what I think. I just think it gives you some other dimensions. I just think I don't. I'm interested to know what you think, Luke, but I don't think the one drop matters as much in teams. Um, yeah, I think because like
I completely disagree.
you disagree.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we look at when we're doing matchups and stuff is who outdrops who. And if I would have my way, I'd always, if you can, get your team, get the matchups so you outdrop and have choice. Is what we've been doing to great effect.
Yeah.
Stuart, 2-1, Team TO, and one or two lists like doesn't matter if you've got 10 drops of stuff. But then if you put that into an opponent's one drop list, you kind of mitigate your opponent's power of their one drop, and then they could have just gone hunters or warlord and got extra benefits, but they didn't, and you've combated that with your high drop list, and vice versa. Someone's gone greedy and put hunters in there for a 2 or 3 drop, and then you sneak in there with your one drop and still outdrop them. You kind of get to play on that more. Where when you're in singles, you've kind of got to go for the best ballpark or what you expect. Or most lists will have 3 drops, so I'll go 2 drop or something like that. Where here you can pick and choose, and I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I just think yeah, I can see that perspective. I guess it depends what you want out of the list, but I'm just thinking like I feel particularly for this Stormdrake Guard list, the matchups where the one drop is going to help you a lot is probably the bad matchups, and I think if you dodge those, then whether you're going first or second doesn't matter as much.
Oh, with dragons in particular, I'd agree that you probably get more benefit from not being able to be roared or stomped or something like that with your whole army.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
I just think that it's gonna make the like the matchups we talked about before, like the Flesh Eater Courts of the Corn, like all those matchups, the random casino stupid Timmy monster armies, right? Which I'm one of those. Like full disclosure, it just makes those matchups easier. Like playing this into a Guo, you know, not being able to get hit by the 4 mortal wounds thing every charge phase, it's pretty big to have have hunters on the Stormdrake Guard. Um,
I do think this is the only one exception, though. I think what I said about uh, drop matching and being able to pick up matchups where you outdrop in teams tournament, like for me, is something that I've been focusing on and might be contributing to why we're doing better than we think. Like seriously, like I think it's something that might be being slept on. And like what we've noticed is like, oh, Hippie's got 10 drops or whatever. This guy's got a one drop. The matchup's okay. That kind of negates his whole one drop that he's gone for here, and he could have the same list with hunters and an extra artifact, but he doesn't
yeah,
because of
yep,
the
yep,
matchup
yep,
and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. We got Toby Black in the comments has an interesting perspective here, where he thinks that having 2 one-drop lists in your team composition is going to be helpful. So thinking about it
I agree.
as a team composition thing is quite interesting. I like that perspective. Like not every list needs to be a one-drop, but you probably do need a couple in there to challenge the other
Oh, it's exactly
one-drops.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
okay,
exactly what I'm saying. Like we've got a couple of one drops. I'm a 3 drop. Cavi's a 3 drop, and then we've got 2 lists that are high drop with the
yeah,
Corn and Beast
yeah,
of Chaos.
yeah,
And that's kind of what we're doing. What Toby's sort of saying, where we can put our one drops where the one drop's going to make a big effect into someone else that's gone Battle Regiment but Warlord as well,
yeah. The
and
4-drop or the 2-drop or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
and we've
yeah,
we've punished them for that, and then their one drops. It's not the only thing you're looking at because mainly you're looking at battle plan and faction matchup, but then the level of drops you are is kind of like the third piece of the puzzle where you can maybe try and get advantages or create disadvantages in that matchup process, which is why it's so
absolutely.
nuanced and so layered, and it's great, and I love teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. How are we doing for time? Okay. Um,
Yeah, we'll skip a couple of teams because we while we want to talk to everyone, we simply don't have time. and we have been going it systematically. But Stuart, let's just pick a team out for me that you think um had some really cool lists, and then you're wanting to follow their progress, and let's pick up on them and see how they've been doing.
Um, let's see here. Uh, I think I've in the kind of the lower
I've got to talk.
brackets. Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can I
we can.
talk about? Yeah, I've got one, and it's some guys that I've always find interesting to follow how they're doing, and that's five choffs, a Russian and an Aussie walk into a bar.
Okay. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
team name.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've apparently got seven members with that team name, but there you go. Can't count. Uh, and then these are some of the TTS heroes that we've got, like
Yeah.
Peter, Irontide, MJ Pegasus. Bring in some flavorful lists, not necessarily just the filth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've not won a
Yeah.
team matchup yet, but they have done so they've won some individual games. So do you have access to see who's beaten who?
Yeah, we can have a dive through that. So, let's have a look here. Uh,
Is that on your spreadsheet? Is it?
yeah. Now, oh, I know in round one there was So I'll go to his list now. But Geordie on Motorhomes, who's playing Corn, played Asura the Corn OG. Do you remember this, Luke, in round one?
Fight. Yeah, the corn fight.
I
Yeah,
loved it as well. I loved
great.
the shit talk after the game. Asura's like, don't step to the OG, because Asura won this game. And their lists are pretty spot on
Pretty similar.
identical. Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
only just a couple small differences, but maybe Asura's knowledge of the army is just a bit deeper. You can kind of see as we go through it, like they don't have the strongest lists ever. I mean, of the ones here, the strongest one is definitely Marty's Seraphon here, also known as Pask in other parts of the TTS community. Yeah.
This balances out a bit, right? I'm joking, Pask. I'm joking. Poor man.
But I don't know what he thinks about this, but maybe the prime is something. I noticed that when Stormcast first came out, like everyone was putting this in all of their order lists, because it got a lot better, right? It got a 4 board, but the issue is everything else in the book got like 8 times as better, and this got like twice as better. Like that's the way I think about it. Like, this thing is great, and it did get better, but it's still not like maybe worth 325 points, especially in the context of Seraphon, where you've got some of the strongest stuff in the whole game. It's still maybe a bit expensive. Yeah, I wonder if he's come to that conclusion, but he's still got the Skink Teeth and the Engine of Gods and stuff like that. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Stuart. I've just had my mind blown in that I've learned for the first time that Azura's real name is Calvin, and that's who we've been speaking to in the chat.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
yeah, blown my mind.
Well, there you go. He was a superior Corn player. And yeah, no one has yet to knock him off the blood throne.
The corn podium.
Yeah.
I know also in this team we had Peter Irontide and his ogres take a win or two as well. Do you want to have a quick look at that?
Yeah, so I think was it in round 2?
I think he won one of his games in round 2. Yeah, sounds about right.
Maybe round 3. Yeah, we had yeah, he won against what was Mr. Evanson playing? Maybe he won against Seraphon, I think, actually. I think that's what Mr. Evanson was
I think
playing.
he was. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't
I'll
catch
find
that
out.
game. Yeah, Seraphon. But, we've seen that in the past. So
Ogres into Seraphon. Yeah.
it's always the that's the one where you go out, you're 3-0 as a Seraphon player. You go out on a Saturday night. You have a few too many drinks. You come in tomorrow morning and you play against an ogre player who's been drinking since 4 o'clock Friday and hasn't stopped. And he's just used to the state that you're in, and you're both just kind of fumbling over the table a little bit. But yeah, if you go look at the Honest Wargamer stats in singles, ogres are the only army which has a positive win rate against Seraphon, which is just hilarious, because ogres are not a strong army at the moment, right? They're not a strong army, but boy do they have a strong win rate against Seraphon. Yeah.
Smooth brain double them, and you might have a chance. And
Yes.
if there's anything
Yes.
that ogres can do, and that's smooth brain and double,
Yep.
and that's basically it.
Yep. You gotta respect the smooth brain double. I think Pete. There's actually another Pete in the UK, Pete Brizio, who also plays ogres. He's put them down recently, but with ogres, it's like you've got to consent into the smooth brain double now. I feel like because like
Yeah,
there's no other path to victory. It's like when I'm
yeah,
picking up ogres, it's like this is the way I'm going to win this game, and if I don't get this, then it's fine. I've just accepted the state of the universe, then we didn't win this game. But if I get the double here, my opponent's going to be very surprised at what happens to him. Because people are still surprised about it, Luke. People are still surprised that 6 Stonehorns could take off a whole army, but it can.
well, I've
Yeah.
I've looked into it. Mr. Everson was running the Stegodons. He had
Yes.
4
Yes.
Stegodons, the Bastillodon, and Lord Croak. So Stonehorn's better than Stegodons. Is what we've learnt.
Yep.
It's what we've learnt here, which I don't
They
think is
are,
true. But
even with the -1 damage, apparently. No, they're not. I think probably just there was some funky stuff that happened there. I do have
yeah,
my pick
I agree.
of team to talk
Yeah,
about,
go
Luke.
for it.
And I actually have a
Yeah,
pick of player I would like to talk about, which you can probably guess who it is, because I love his list,
I
and he's a tremendous
I
human as
can't
well.
actually.
Here we go. Ray Bear running the
Oh yeah,
Nurgle.
oh yeah.
And not only is he running Nurgle, Luke, he's running Glotkin. And
We
yeah,
think this is strong.
now this is a strong list. And I know
Yeah,
so Toby from our list from our team who playing Legion of the First Prince played him round 1. And I don't think he played against Glotkin before very much. And everyone does it when they play against Glotkin. They're like, oh man, it's like a 700 point Guo with like a funky command ability. And like the game goes on, it's like holy
changes
shit,
the
holy
whole
shit.
game.
Like it's like wait, he does what? And like you read the rule on paper, and then it's like, all right, sure. You think it's like Iron Suns or something, but when the game goes on, and your opponent goes like, "Oh, are you done with your movement phase?" And you're like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh, let me just charge now." And then you realize your plans are just totally ruined, like because obviously you
Yeah, you
can't
tag
charge
something.
if your unit gets charged. And the Glockin just gets to pick every matchup. He's like a strategic mastermind, which I don't know if that entirely works with his fluff, but that's kind of how it works in the game. Like maybe Be'lakor should have something like that, but it's like, oh, I'm going in now over here. I'm going in now over here. Like I played one game in real life with Glotkin where my opponent had Special K, so Mr. Big Karazai, and he had him lined up to get into the Glotkin. I'm just like, have 10 Plague Bearers. There you go. And then I killed him on the following turn. So
So yeah, I think it's
very
really
strong.
like it's good at tagging things. It can also mean that Glotkin chooses where you fight. So you've put into position, you're 3 inches away from the plague bearers, and you might want to hop over the screen or something and fight on the objective. But then the plague bearers charge you forward, and then you're fighting off the objective or something like that, and you're not getting the points that you need to be because he charged you, not the other way around.
Yep.
And it changes like how you have to position you in order to get around it and to stop him getting the tags that he wants or to the positioning he wants. You have to really change the way that you're playing.
Yeah, and I think this stanky dude, also being able to charge in your turn is like adds a whole other element to it because it's like I got to play around this guy now potentially charging me and like stopping me using like a key command ability. And yeah, often you can just use like the Glotkin's charge thing as well to just get the Glotkin up the board because he moves 5 inches, so it's slow. He's a very strange unit because often you just run him on your turn. You just run him 6, and I was like, I'm putting him there, and then your opponent goes like, I'm killing him now, and you're like, no, you're not.
It's kind of like
It's bizarre.
your movement phase is your run phase. You run him, and that's your movement phase, and then your charge phase is your opponent's movement phase.
Yeah, he's
And
like
if you look at it like that,
he's like
yeah,
the Pokemon what's his name? Is it Slacking? You know the guy that like doesn't
every other
he,
turn,
yeah, every other
yeah,
turn doesn't do anything. That's basically Glotkin. But then like the turn he does something is your opponent's turn. Yeah, bizarre,
yeah,
strange unit,
real good,
but
real
very
good.
cool. All
So
right,
so how's Ray Bear done? Is he
oh,
two
he's
and
3 and
one?
0.
Is he three and
I
oh?
believe he's 3 and 0.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, man.
he's smashing it.
Go
Yeah.
Ray. Go Ray.
Hooray for Nurgle, as he would say.
Hooray for Nuggle. Right, Stuart. I know, conscious of the time. Shall we have a quick look at just the overall standings and what sort of teams are at the top and bottom, and how we think maybe the future rounds are going to go? Who do we see? Who's in the contention for the wooden spoon, and who's in the contention for the top?
Well,
What's going on?
the top's all still to play for, Luke, because we got 3 more rounds, and like if you go 6-0, there's only going to be one team to go 6-0, but if you do go 6-0, you will win the tournament, but that's pretty
Well,
unlikely.
that's not guaranteed to happen. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think going 6-0 is unlikely to happen here. Like,
So,
what is there?
let's say
Four teams on 3-0 right now.
from
Three.
our perspective, yeah, 3 teams on 3-0. So we're gonna have, we're gonna potentially have one team on 4-0 going into round 4, and then we have 2 more rounds after that, right?
And then that person has to, stay
Yes.
undefeated.
And it's kind of like King of the Hill. Like you gotta stay up there. Or then it comes down to points. And I think realistically, it is going to come down to points in the 5-1 bracket. Yeah, but what I love about it, Luke, is like if you're in the 2-0-1 bracket now, like if you're like, let's say your team beat down here in 9th place, you can still win the tournament.
100%.
You can definitely still win the tournament. Now the 1-0-2s,
That's kind of crazy.
the 1-0-2s, you probably won't win the tournament, but you can still podium. You could get 3rd place with 1-0-2 right now by going 4-2, because chances are there's probably only going to be 2 5-1 teams, maybe 1 5-1. I don't know how it works out on the math. It depends how we go into round 5, but round 6, sorry. But yeah, there's kind of all still to play for. Like we're only halfway through the tournament. I did set up the pack so that I didn't want it to be, because in some past team tournaments, if we have like uncapped points or something. Someone can just get so far ahead in the early rounds, and like even if they start losing, they can still kind of just stay on top. And I didn't want it to be like that, so that's why A, it's 6 rounds, and then B, we put some cap points in, so you can only score 90 points every round, just so we've still got stuff to play for in the end. Yep.
What you're telling me, Stuart, is that Team Tio can win.
Yeah, you guys can win, definitely. I hope you don't, because then people are going to like look at the stats and
lose their fucking minds.
Like, oh man,
Imagine
Rob from Honest
the
Wargamers just going to be reading this and just like, all right, well, this is a joke. TTS is a joke.
Yeah, it will discredit TTS forever if we win, or podium. Like, yeah, like we're expecting to be 0-3 right now, so it's kind of crazy. I think it goes. So we didn't try hard with our list, but what we're try harding in with is the matchup process. Like I'm putting a lot of thought into it, and I'm getting feedback from the guys of what they want to play into and don't want to play into and stuff. And also, obviously, we're all relatively experienced players, and we most of us know what we're doing, with the exception of me. So it shows you that you can still do stuff with non-meta lists, and that's kind of what we wanted to set out and prove, isn't it?
So, do you have a prediction at this point for who's going to win the tournament? Would you like to throw a name in the hat?
So I think before this now, I think that the Chosen Ones were probably my favourite pick. Your team, Stuart. I think you had the combination of the powerful list and the player experience. Because let's be real, Luke Morton went around and just, fucking Man City bought all the good players up of all these poor clubs.
Yeah.
Bit of a club, took all these big players off, and he's done that and collected a bit of a super group of players. So I think you're still up there, but I think the other ones that are the 2 Spanish teams I think seem really strong at the moment. Dim and Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
I think their lists are really good. Their list compositions are good, and in the past I've not been too familiar with some of the players, but they all seem to know what they're doing. They all seem like good guys, and they seem to get a grasp of it. And I think the 2 Spanish teams could definitely do something here. And I think that they're quite similar in their lists and their player level. So I don't know whether these guys all know each other or whether they're 2 separate Spanish teams, but I think they're one of those 2 also has a chance. What do you think, Stuart? And why is it Team TO?
I don't know. It's interesting. See, I have a theory that just from watching various sports and games over the years, that a super team like the Chosen Ones is never going to win anything.
I don't disagree with that, to be honest with you.
I don't think super teams work. I think we're a great team. And I love playing with the guys. Don't get me wrong, but I think just generally,
You sell a lot of tickets, Stuart.
yes, yeah, you sell a lot of tickets. It's a great storyline. It's basically like a big exhibition match. But I think the teams that do win are the ones that have more a balance of, I guess, high maintenance and low maintenance personalities. Both.
Well, I thought you were going to say balance of lists.
Well, both in the game and out, because because what I'm talking
Yeah.
about is like, there are certain players who are like, put me into anything, I don't really care, dude. People who just kind of like
Yeah.
a little bit, maybe off the sidelines, and then like when they get in the game, like they do their best and get like good results. And then there are some players it's just like, what are you doing? Why are you giving me this army? How dare you betray me? And those are like your high maintenance players where they're like,
But they will 20-0 someone.
Yes,
Yeah.
they will 20-0 someone, and you need them, but you need
Yeah.
both of those players. And I think maybe our Chosen Ones composition is not good for that. So,
Your
with that
prima
theory-
donnas.
yes. So with that theory in mind, actually, there are a few people on the team who are like mega low maintenance. I don't want to say like Philip is actually really low maintenance. But like he's just cool with anything. But I will say, of the teams that are left, I think probably Motorhomes has a strong team composition in that respect. They have some really strong Russian players in there.
Nikita, the tournament winner from last year,
Who are both low
tournament,
maintenance and like really, really good at the game. So
Yeah.
I mean, Nikita will play like anything, and he'll do absolutely fine. And then they've also got I think some more high maintenance lists in there that need like some more tailored matchups.
Dino lists. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they've got a good approach. What else have we got here? I think Team DIM also has a good approach.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely as much a fan of their team composition as maybe I am of Motorhomes. I think Team Australia has a similar issue that the Chosen Ones have, both on a person level and a list level, where there's kind of they've got a lot of like really strong lists, but I think in the matchup process maybe they've all wanted to avoid the same matchup. You know what I mean? Like as soon as that happens, there's something kind of slightly wrong with the team composition. I know we've found that in Chosen Ones as well. Nobody wanted to play Khorne. Like no one wants to play Khorne. Get Khorne out of my face. It's like one of the worst armies in the game. No one wants to play it. Yeah. So I think to kind of sum it up, really, like you got to think of the team Age of Sigmar. Like obviously we're still playing like singles in the sense that we're playing 1v1 at the tabletop, but the mix of personalities and lists in the team, it's we got to think of it more in like a sports psychology kind of way than we do normally in Age of Sigmar, where it's just like let's get the Stormdrake Guard on the table. There's more depth to it, and that's why teams is fantastic, isn't it, Luke?
It is. And what also is fantastic, Stuart, and arguably more important, is who's going to lose the tournament. So let's look at the wooden spoon, Stuart.
Oh
Let's
god,
look at the wooden spoon.
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but all right.
I'm willing to throw under the bus. Let's see
Okay.
who we've got. Scroll down for me. What have we got?
Okay, so
Right.
so obviously to lose the tournament, to lose the tournament, to be the undisputed loser of the tournament, you want to go 0-6, okay? So I don't know if anyone's gonna go 0-6. I suspect probably not.
I don't think it will happen. No, I think everyone will get a win. Personally, I think everyone will get one win, which is good.
God, I really don't like.
See, I'm
this, Luke.
looking at the. Nah, I'll do it. So
Okay.
we've got the gut guard at the bottom at the moment, but I'm looking at their list. They've got Marathi and the bow snakes in there, man. They've got Gargants in there. They've got fucking fulminators and long strikes. You guys need to sort. You're not losing the tournament. You got some filthy lists.
I think to be fair to them, they've had some they've had a few issues along the way. I think that have.
Oh yeah, with matchups
extra
and
game
being able to
issues.
play games
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. and substitutes and stuff. Okay, fair enough. But there's some good lists in there. So I think once maybe the disruption's been sorted, that they'll start getting some wins.
Okay, look,
We've mentioned the Russian.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
I think I think everyone's gonna go 0-6. I think it's these guys, the five toffs and a Russian and an Aussie player walk into a
yeah,
bar.
that's my pick. Yeah, I mean,
Nothing
the
against
only
the guys,
Sylvaneth,
but okay.
the only Sylvaneth at the tournament, and it's bad because he poor MJ Pegasus. He watched me play last game and thought, War Song Revenant with the spell singer and the oh,
Yeah,
bless him, bless him. Um, but these guys are.
but that's fine.
Please, you must play them, and
yes.
you must talk to them. These guys are all absolute heroes. They're so friendly and funny, and offering some of the great games. So they're my pick of the wooden spoon, and I know these guys will be more happy with that prediction than they would be if they were predicted to win. So this is great. It's what we like.
All right. Well, have you got any closing thoughts, Luke, or should we wrap up the show?
Well, we'll wrap up. I think thank you all for everyone who's tuned in, and keep playing the tournament. We've really enjoyed in the past our tournaments how the community has been. I think at the moment with the team tournament, it's been slightly more. It's easy to be a bit more disconnected because it's maybe just your captains doing your matchups for you and stuff like that. So I'd encourage people to continue putting their their thoughts and their inputs into the Discord. We've got the game summary chat, which isn't being used as much as it has been in the past. So I'd like people to continue to put their game summaries and start talking about their games in the chat. And what I've been learning about the tournament, with it being wide open at the moment, and just games in general, is don't give up, guys. I think I've been terrible at it, where something's happened, turn two, and like it's over, throw my toys out the pram. Don't do a Luke. We stick to it and get some wins, get some upsets, and play some Warhammer. It's going to be really cool. Looking forward to see how the stats turn out at the end of the tournament.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and this has been Stuart Irongus from McCowan and Luke Willoughby. This is the Miscast podcast, and we will see you next time.